Hi, this is Marcos, and today I've got Flora Waples from Restore Medical Spa today, and we're going to be talking a little bit about her spa and about the spa industry. So, Dr. Waples, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself and your business, we'd love to hear more.
Absolutely. So my name is Dr. Flora Waples. I'm the co-founder and co-owner of Restore Medical Spa. We started, 13 years ago as a single location, one room. I was in the back injecting. My partner, my business partner, and my sister, Dominique, was working the front desk. And now, 13 years later, we have 3 locations that are open. We're grossing about 5 million a year. We have signed a lease for our 4th location, just starting the build out. So, fingers crossed. And that is the very short version of our story.
So, talk to me about how you decided to start your spa in the first place 13 years
Yeah,
ago.
absolutely. So there are kind of 2 answers to that. And the 2 answers, there's a medical answer and there's a business / life answer. So I'll give them both to
Okay.
you and you can decide which one you like best. The medical answer is I was formerly trained in emergency medicine and trauma and absolutely loved it. Had a wonderful career. I did that for 15 years because I'm older than I look. But I absolutely loved that career. But the thing that was very frustrating about that type of medicine for me was, you're always fighting a losing battle, right? It's a very reactive type of medicine. Something horrible happens and you try to fix it. And something horrible happens and you try to fix it. But, if someone comes in, they've been shot 6 times, if you're fast and you're lucky, you might save their life, but they're never going to be what they were before. They're never going to be okay again. There's always going to be a deficit. And every time you see your patients, they're a little worse off than they were the last time. And that became very heavy. And the thing about aesthetics and regenerative medicine is that every time I see a patient, they can leave a little better than they were before. You can actually proactively make them better than when they walked in the door. And that's really rare in medicine. So that was sort of the medical, thing that drew me to the fields of aesthetics and regenerative medicine. And then from a business standpoint, I was an ER doc, right? I was a highly paid burger flipper. Very highly paid, but I was an hourly employee. And any hours when I wasn't at work, I was not making money. And if I break my right hand, I'm done. Right? I'm done. My career is over. And so,
Okay.
the thing about aesthetics is if you build your protocols well and you train your staff well and you invest in those are things that can be delegated out to other people. So I can sit at home. If I broke my right hand, I could sit at home and my practice could still function. So it's something that has the ability to scale beyond just me, which is something that I found very exciting and very important. And I have the ability to make patients' lives not just less bad, but actually better. And that was really compelling to me.
Yeah, I can see your passion like just kind of shines, like I can see it. And so, like, it really is about making that positive impact in people. It's not just about the latest injectable. It's really about like making them see, into like their ideal self, so to speak.
And more than that, it's our goal at Restore. Our mission is to make aging optional. And that's both from the outside in and the inside out, right? Our goal is not to drape beautiful skin on a sick body. Our goal is not to have, a fantastic, healthy body and your skin looks like a set of drapes. Our goal is for all of it, feel as good as you look and look as good as you feel. And I really do. I find that exciting and it's fun and it's interesting and it's medicine that's changing so rapidly these days. We're in the cusp of a revolution in this type of medicine. So I really do enjoy it. And I'm just so lucky to have found this field and be able to do it.
Great. And what's been, like your favorite things that you've seen that have just come out in the marketplace that have changed since the first, 10 years or so?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely again, I'm a physician. You talk to my partner who's primarily the business side of things and you'll get different answers from her. But for me, what I find very exciting is over the last 15 years, we are seeing a move away from, let's call them synthetics, for want of a better word, artificial tools. So for example, a surgeon, cuts off some excess skin, yanks it back, staples it in place. And that's it's much more finesse than that. But that's not something that's inherent to your body. We inject neuromodulators and we paralyze the muscle. It's not native to your body. We take fillers, synthetic fillers, we inject them. They lift the tissue up and that's good and that looks wonderful, but they're not native to your body, right? Over the last 5 years, and it's been sort of gaining steam and gaining momentum, is this idea that well, what if instead we could just regenerate your own tissue? Like instead of using scalpels, instead of using neuromodulators, instead of using synthetic fillers, what if we could instead just regenerate your tissue? And that's where you get into exosomes and stem cells and biofillers and all of these tools. They're all part of the same revolution, which is harnessing the body's innate ability to heal in these very targeted ways so that instead of it being you with filler, now it's just you. And that's really cool. It's exciting medicine. It's fascinating from a scientific standpoint. It's beautiful because it's natural. It's entirely your own tissue, so it looks natural. That's really cool. And the best thing for me as a physician, it has a lower side effect profile because everything that we're using is all native to the body. So that's been really, really exciting on the medicine side for me.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, things have just changed quite a bit.
Oh
And
yeah.
looks like it's going to continue changing. We're not slowing down.
Yeah. And it's cool. I look back on what I was doing like 10 years ago and I'm like, oh my God, I was a barbarian. Like, wow, this is terrible. But it was state of the art at that time, so it changes a lot.
Yeah. And it's probably more sustainable, right? When you do that, like, if I pull you up, so to speak, or simplistic talk, right? Like, only so many times I can do that before,
Yeah.
scarring becomes an issue, that sort of thing. But if I'm regenerating that skin in a more healthy way, that's something
It's
that can be
100%.
done
Yeah. I mean, like, you
and
can only go
hopefully
to the
last.
surgeon so many times, but you can go to the gym every day for your life, And
Sure.
I really view regenerative therapies. It's like taking your skin, taking your tissue to the gym. You are making it stronger each time. You're making it healthier each time. And there's no limit to the number of times you can do that. So that's really, yeah, it's been very exciting.
What about I don't know if your practice deals with weight loss stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that's probably a primary part. So talk to me about the changes there.
Well, I can't imagine what you're referring to. So, so yeah, I mean the
It's a
GLP-1s,
secret.
and for those folks watching, that's your Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. Those medicines, they are phenomenal medicines. Those are the drugs of the century. Even though we're only at 2025, those are the drugs of the century. Because it's the same basic underlying concept, right? You can do liposuction and you can take 20 pounds of fat off a person, but you don't make them healthier. When you use GLP-1s to lose weight, we now have good, I mean, very, very good, validated, large scale studies that show you take the weight off and the patient becomes healthier. And so you reduce heart attacks, you reduce strokes, you reduce diabetes, you reduce dementia, all of these things. So patients come to me. I always tell my patients, I'm like, they come to me because they want to have more sex and look great in a swimsuit. And that's wonderful. Everyone should have as much sex as they want and look fantastic in a swimsuit. Everyone should be able to do that. What I get from it as a physician is they leave healthier. By taking off that visceral inflammatory fat, I give them another 5 years of good life. And so, they're doing it for the swimsuit. I'm in it for the long haul. Everybody's happy. Those have been fantastic medications. Again, on the business side, the profit margin is fantastic. The safety profile is fantastic. So it's really something where everybody wins. That the patient they look better and they're healthier. I feel good about myself. The practice does well. They're just phenomenal medications. Everyone I love has been on them at one time or another.
And like we touch upon, like just the rollback from like so many people at the pre-diabetic level or even the diabetes level
Yeah.
that have effectively been able to roll it back because that was what it was originally
Yeah.
brought on for is
100%.
diabetes.
Yeah. I mean, I will tell you my story. I was pre-diabetic. Everyone in my family becomes diabetic in their 40s. And I was about 42. I was carrying about 20, 30 extra pounds, depends on the day, fully pre-diabetic, like on the path, ready to become a diabetic. And I went on the GLP-1s for 3 months. I lost about 20 pounds. My knees stopped hurting so I could run again. And, now I'm training for an ultramarathon. To say it is life-changing is an understatement. My kids will never watch me take that slow ride. Diabetes is a horrible, horrible way to die. It's a terrible disease. And my kids will never have to see that. It's a just incredible medication. Great medication.
Yeah, my mom suffered from diabetes for the last 25 years of her life. She had a kidney transplant and it was complication of the
Yeah.
transplant. So
Yeah. It's
she
horrible.
had to deal with
Horrible
that for her
stuff.
whole
And we
life.
now have the tools to treat it, to prevent it, to reverse it. I mean, I didn't think I would see that in my lifetime. So it's been pretty fantastic.
Crazy. So what are you most excited about, like, that you see coming up in the next couple of years in the med spa space?
In the med spa world, I would say two things. First is the rise of biofillers. HA fillers, dermal fillers, they're fantastic. They work beautifully. We've been using them heavily for about 15 years, and they work. But there have always been problems with HA fillers. They form nodules. The immune system will periodically react against them. When you have too much for too long, your face starts to get this kind of very heavy, unnatural look. It doesn't always move correctly. Again, like we used them because it's what we had, and they look better than not, but there have always been problems with HA fillers. Biofillers is basically, there's a variety of families, but the one that I use in my practice happens to be Solenis derma PRP, but there's a bunch of different ones. But the idea is you draw the patient's blood, you use their plasma, and you create a designer filler for that individual out of their own plasma. So it takes away the rejection, it takes away the nodules, it takes away the immune stuff, and it regenerates the skin. And I think that the transition from HA fillers to biofillers will be a slow one, just because there's a great deal of learning that has to happen in our community. But I love HA fillers. I have them in my own face, but I would love to never inject one again if I had the option. And the other thing that's really been really cool in the sort of medical aesthetic space is the convergence of sort of what we'll call like sort of functional medicine, hormone replacement, anti-aging medicine, like that sort of group of folks, and like the aesthetics folks, those two fields are merging. And it's for the betterment of everyone. Because I don't want to just offer good skin. I want to offer good skin and a great sex life, and you look good and you feel good and you're healthy and you live longer, and all of those things go together. Vitality shouldn't just be from inside out or outside in. It really should be both. And I see these two fields sort of gradually merging over time, and I think that will be, I think that'll just be really, really wonderful revolution for our patients.
Got it. Well, all I know is if I could bottle your passion and energy, like I would buy it off the shelf.
We're working on
I
it. We're
love it.
working on it. That's
I
next
love it.
step.
So let's talk about the business side of it. So we
Yeah.
know that you didn't start, and people were probably not lined outside the door. Tell me about the first couple of years.
Oh gosh. Oh, the first couple of years were brutal. I mean, like my sister is my business partner, and we had this plaque that we found at some kind of like tourist shop somewhere on some highway somewhere, and it said so this beautiful flowery script, and it said the two most overrated experiences in life are natural childbirth and owning your own business. And we had that on the wall, because starting a business is really, really, really hard. Everybody looks at business owners and goes, oh my gosh, like I want to own a business. I'm like, I don't know if you do. There's several years of really, really painful work. When we opened, I remember we had, one office, again, one room. My sister was working the front desk. And I remember sitting at the front desk because we had no patients. Like our first month, we made $10,000. That's gross. Okay. The profit was $1,000 to support two people, just putting that in
Right.
perspective. But I remember sitting behind the front desk, and Dominique sitting next to me and I'm sitting there and watching people just walk back and forth on the sidewalk because we're in a sort of a walking kind of shopping area, and watching people walk by and just like wanting to either like scream or cry or just something because they were just walking by, and I'm like, but we're here and this is my dream and this is so important, and why won't anyone just walk in the door? And just it was so hard. And I would say the first 3 or 4 years, I did not take a salary for the first 5 years. I was working in the ER. So the one thing about emergency medicine is it's 24/7, right? So I would work in the daytime, I'd be at Restore. And then evenings and weekends, I'd be at the ER, and that's how I was able to support myself. And my sister, because she quit her job entirely, she was an attorney, and so you can't really, that's working hours. You can't really double up on that the way you can with ER. So she got all the profit from Restore after payroll, which was nothing, but it was barely enough for her to eat, essentially. I took no salary at all because we didn't know anything about running a business. We knew about law and we knew about medicine, but we didn't know anything about running a business. I knew that I was doing good medicine. I knew I did a good job, but that doesn't matter, right? Like there's brilliant docs with beautiful hands all over the place. If no one knows they're there, it doesn't matter. So
Right.
so those first few years were very, very, very hard. And then we were very blessed we found an organization called EO, which you might have heard of, Entrepreneurs Organization. And we started with them. They have this development program for like baby entrepreneurs, where in order to get into it, you had to be making $250,000 gross a year. And then to graduate from it, you had to be making $1 million a year. And they give you a couple of years to do that. And so we found that organization. We were just absolutely blessed to find some very, very smart people who are willing to share their time and share their experience. We learned from them. But those first few years were very tough. Yeah. I would not do it again.
Well, no one tells you about all the different hats we have to wear as
No.
business owners, right? Like if you could just be in there and be doing your doctor stuff in the room, that's fine. And that's,
Yeah.
what you have trained many years to do. But there's payroll and taxes and marketing and everything else that's involved in owning a business. And you don't know how hard and stressful it can be until you've done it.
And there is no one else to help you. And there's no, you have to just figure it out. And I would say if there was one thing that I would say makes the difference between a successful, entrepreneur or not, is when you're confronted with a problem, you have to figure it out. And that, you have to. And if your mindset is, why isn't anyone helping me? Or why isn't someone doing this? Or, like I'm the victim. No, it's on you and you must figure it out. And if you can do that, if you can have that mindset, you'll probably make it. But if you don't have that mindset, there's just, nope, no one else is going to
Yeah.
help you.
It's completely different. I mean, the schooling system today just doesn't teach those sort
No,
of skills,
no,
right? It's
no.
still
It
set up to
teaches
be
Yeah, it produces employees, and that's the purpose of it. And that's, you need good employees, but it does not teach leadership, and it doesn't teach you how to stand on your own and be a leader when you don't know what the heck you're doing, which is the truth of all of us, right? So yeah, it was an
So
education.
tell me about when you started to kind of get that growth going, when you started to, see that movement happening to get to the next stages. When was that? When did you recognize that it
You
was
know, it's
happening?
it's a hard question to answer because it's not ever just like one thing, right? It's the
Sure.
culmination of lots of things. Definitely on my sister's side, Dominique, the biggest thing that she did in those early years is she figured out how to organize, understand, and use financial statements. We knew money was coming in and we knew money was going out, but we had no idea how to make ourselves a profitable business. And she figured that out. Like it took her, a year, but she figured it out and made us profitable, just through force of will. Nothing
Hmm.
else really. And then on the medical side, what I figured out is methods for training that do not require me to be in the room, because training an aesthetic provider takes about a year and it takes about $50,000, depending on a few things, but that's about what it takes. And a practice that's got only one provider, like a solo doc or a doc with one or two nurses, you can't step out of the room to do that training because you physically don't have time. You can't be in two places at once. And so there's a cap on how you can grow. So I figured out how to automate a bunch of our training processes. I found this program called Trainual, which I love, by the way. Shout out to Trainual, fantastic program, for a platform for hosting training. Anyone that wants one. But basically, I recorded all my lectures. I recorded videos of doing all the procedures and all of those things, upload them to Trainual. So then my nurses could just do all the studying they need to do, come in and just do one day of hands-on check off. And I took our training time from a year and $50,000 to now it takes maybe 12 hours of my personal time. And that allows me to do other stuff. That allows me to scale our business. It allows me to find new procedures because I'm not constantly working on training my staff. So I think that was the biggest thing that I was able to do.
Got it. What about the expenses of, getting new equipment? Because as we know, most of this equipment is not cheap.
No,
They don't sell it at Walmart.
they do not.
So how do you manage to grow in the business, keep the cash flow positive, and still have the latest tech?
This is Dominique's strength. She's an incredible negotiator, but she has learned over the years that not only can you get lasers for about a third of what they're advertised for if you have more than one. So now that we have 3 locations going on 4, when we buy lasers, we buy them in groups. And when we do that, we're not negotiating for one laser, we're negotiating for 4 lasers, and we get significant discounts. So that's helped us tremendously. And I will also, as a tip to any med spa owners out there, whenever you buy a laser, the only time when you have any pull whatsoever with the company, with the rep, with anyone, is before you sign the contract. The second your ink is on the paper, pardon my language, I'm about to curse, they don't give a fuck about you. Before you sign the contract, you need to have in writing in the contract that they will not charge a recertification fee on that laser when you sell it to someone else, because lasers don't last forever, and deck's gonna change, things are gonna change, and lasers companies charge just ludicrous, exorbitant recertification fees, which are complete BS in my opinion. Like, you don't have to pay a $20,000 fee when you sell your car, right? But somehow you do when you sell a laser. You can get them to negotiate that before the contract is signed in writing, and then you have resale value on the laser that you don't have otherwise. The other thing I would say is the warranties are absolute nonsense. Don't ever buy one. That'll save you $12,000 a year per machine. Don't ever do it. It's complete bullshit. The lasers, generally speaking, will last about 5 to 6 years before they require enough maintenance that it starts to be worth it. And at that point, the laser is obsolete. So don't ever do it. And buy in bulk if you can. That's easier said than done. But that's how we do it.
So we talked about them, becoming obsolete, that sort of thing. How do you feel about purchasing used?
I think that if you know what you're doing, it's absolutely fine. I mean, here's the thing. Like, when you're talking about a laser, if you only need to know a few things about that laser to know everything you need to know. You need to know the wavelength, pulse duration, joules, spot size. Once you know those things, you understand what those things mean on like a medical physics level, you can buy any laser without even turning it on and using it and understand what it's going to be able to do. So for a new person, I would never recommend it, because when you buy used, you don't get any training. So you have to be able to figure it out yourself, which is fine. If you have experience, you can. Once you get to the point where you can buy used, don't buy anything that's over 4 years, because generally speaking, about 6 years, 7 years is about how long they're going to last if you're dealing with a true laser. And that's everything I can think of. Yes, it is fine to buy used as long as you are capable of understanding the machine without support.
Got it. Okay. I just thought it was relevant to what we just talked about. So,
Yeah.
okay. So we talked about growing up. So tell me about the last couple of years, getting to 3 and now 4 locations. What did that look like? Like, what
Yeah.
has changed from, you know, Restore it 5 years ago to, this past year or two?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever heard of the valleys of death when it refers to businesses?
No, I don't think so.
It is I think, a very cool theory and also definitely the most catchy name of any theory. So the Valley of Death idea is basically if, between $0 income and $1 million income, that's your first Valley of Death. 90% businesses fail or go back to what they were previously. Then from
Right.
1 million to 5 million, you have another Valley of Death. Again, 10% of businesses fail. Then from 5 million to 50 million, there's another valley. Each of those valleys represents something that you have to figure out in order for the business to make it through to the next stage. So going from 0 to 1 million, the value of death there is figuring out how to outsource your expertise. One really bright person who's really, really good at what they do can usually not make more than $1 million in revenue because they're just limited by the hours in the day, right? So you have to figure out how to train other people to do what you do well enough that it works for your business model, right? That's the first valley of death. And we figured that out in the first sort of 5 to 6 years. The second valley of death is you are now growing to the point where you can no longer do verbal communication with every person all the time. Right? When you start to get an organization that gets to be that size, you need to have a management layer. You need to have a C-suite that's going to help you because you can no longer just walk in and talk to everybody and communicate flat like that. You need to have a structure.
Sure.
And the reason why it's so difficult is because you don't have the money to pay those people until after you get to 5 million. So you got to figure out how to get them and how to build that while you're trying to get enough revenue to pay for them. So that's the second valley of death. So in the last 3 years, we have found and hired and trained and integrated a director of operation, marketing director, and assistant medical director. And they are all just unbelievably, phenomenally talented, brilliant, dedicated individuals. And they are the reason why we are growing now. I mean, it's because, they believe in the mission and they work so hard and having that team in place is what makes a difference because there's only so much that, 1 or 2 people can do.
Got it. So have the PE companies been reaching out to you yet?
Every week. Every week. I get a couple every week. I have zero interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because here's the thing. Like, I have a lot of friends who have taken private equity. I have never heard anyone who was happy about it. I've heard people say things like, okay, it was necessary. We had to do it. It wasn't awful. But I've never heard a single person be like, yeah, that was a great experience. We're growing. We can fund all of our growth organically now. We have financial projections basically saying that we can get to about 17 locations in 5 years. Of course, current events may be changing those projections, but, and we can do all that organically without taking outside capital. So I see no reason to give myself a boss. The reason I went into business for myself is because I don't do well with bosses. So yeah, venture
You and me
capital
both.
reaches out a lot and I politely am not interested.
If you get to 17, they're probably going to be knocking on the door.
Well, they can do that, because here's the thing, like they want ownership and that means that they make decisions. And I don't think that anyone will make better decisions for my business than I will. And that is maybe incredibly arrogant, but no one else is going to care as much as I care or as much as my partner cares. Like no one's going to care that much. Like it would be weird if anyone cared that much. So I'm not interested. Not interested.
Have you thought about wearing that hat of maybe rolling up other like single locations, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we've looked at that, and then that may happen in the future. I think that, and I say this with deep love for my colleagues. In medical aesthetics, I mean, something like 95% of all businesses are single owner, like owner operator. So they're very small, they're very fragmented industry, and similar to me, each of these practices is their founder's baby. They love it and they care about it. And because of that, they sometimes do not realize what its actual worth on paper is. And so when we have taken steps to acquire practices in the past and have found that a lot of times the founders are wildly optimistic over what the practice is worth. But I mean, certainly wouldn't rule it out, especially as the economy turns and things get a little bit tight. Certainly wouldn't rule it out. It's much easier than building out your own locations. So we have not yet, but I would be open to it.
The problem is that in the space with 3, 4 locations, you could probably get a 4 or 5x multiple maybe. But with a one spot location, you're a 2 or 3. And if you
Yes.
don't understand that, if you know a
Yes.
doctor is sold for 4 to 5x and you think, well, I could get that too, you don't
Yes.
understand that the metrics don't work at that level. If you're a sub-million,
Yeah.
or a million or two, like you're just not going to get that
Yeah. And also, like,
valuation.
people tend not to want to believe that their salary has to be included in the cost because I got to
Yeah.
replace you.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't rule it out. Certainly wouldn't rule it out for the right partner, but yeah, we haven't yet.
Got it. So 17 organically, 5 years. That sounds exciting.
And
So,
that's the plan. Now, again, it's really easy to say that, right? Like any jackass can say that. Whether or not I actually can execute on it, that's we'll see. But that is currently the plan.
but if you don't shoot for it, you'll just stay where you are, right?
Then you'll never get
So,
it. Yeah, might as
yeah.
well. I'll either be a glorious example or a horrible warning. One or the other. No,
Well, I hope the former, not the latter.
me too. Yeah, yeah, I hope so.
Well, I gotta say, this was a very fun and exciting interview. And if someone wanted to reach out to you and connect with you, other than PE, probably, how would they reach you?
Absolutely. So, really the best way to communicate with me directly is just through LinkedIn. My name is very unusual. There's only one of me, so that's easy to find. Any patient who wants to know more about our practice, our website is really, there's so much information. There's videos from me. There's, videos of procedures being done. There's befores and afters. So just www.restoremedicalspa.com. That's RESTOR, no E because the marketing people tell me that we have to be fancy. RESTOR medicalspa.com. You can find all kinds of information about our practice, all of our locations there, and we would love to hear from you.
Sounds great. Again, really appreciate your time today.
It's been my pleasure. I get to talk about myself for half an hour. I mean, who doesn't love that?
Well, I liked it. So, all right. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you.